So welcome to the CANOVI carrot variety trial results and reading update webinar. We'll get started. I'm happy to be here today to share with you what this season's orange and red carrot trials have showed us, and then to update you on a few of the carrot breeding projects we have going on. I'm Solveig Hansen. I'm the project coordinator for this project. I'm at UBC, University of British Columbia, here in Vancouver, snowy, slushy Vancouver today. So originally, the goal of these trials was to test the CANOVI orange and red populations that we've been developing for some time alongside commercial hybrid and open pollinated cultivars to see how ready they are for commercialization. However, we and most of you found out pretty quickly that we had a germination issue with both populations due to some thrips, a lot of thrips in our greenhouse seed production that resulted in almost no germination on the red population and roughly 30% on the orange population. So our adjusted goal became to compare the commercial cultivars that we were trialing, the hybrids and open pollinated varieties, to see if we can detect any patterns of performance by region or identify any open pollinated varieties that were competitive on some or all farms with the hybrids. There were several components to this year's trial. First were the on-farm trials that many of you participated in. We trialed 5 orange varieties, 6 red. We asked you to plant a 12-foot plot for each variety. About 30 participants evaluated both orange and red carrots using the seed-linked app, and you submitted ratings on a 1 to 5 scale for traits like germination, vigor, appearance, yield. Roughly a third of you also submitted quantitative data on yield and some notes on maturity and marketability. So that is what you see. Oh, I haven't debuted my pointer. I made my pointer bigger and outlined in orange, so it kind of looks like a carrot. I hope that brings you a little joy. It's bringing me joy. Okay, to supplement that information, we did some replicated trials on the UBC Farm Hub site. We wanted to trial a few more orange cultivars to get an initial look at them. And then we also used 2 harvest dates. We did a 74-day harvest, which is in line with the published maturity dates of most of these varieties. And then a later one, about 3 weeks later, just to get some kind of gauge for how well they held in the field, although it's only on 1 farm, so it's only a suggestion. So the red carrot trial included 6 varieties. As you know, almost no germ on CANOVI red, so I've excluded it from most of the analysis. But we did get to compare 2 hybrid red carrot varieties from Bayo Seeds with 2 open pollinated red varieties from Organic Seed Alliance. That's the Carnelian, which is newly available through High Mowing Organic Seeds, and this R 6620, which I think is maybe supposed to be 6220, which is not yet commercially available. So in this trial, when I refer to commercial varieties, it's these named varieties here. So everything except R 6620. We evaluated the same traits as in the orange carrot trial with the addition of bolt resistance because we'd seen that be an issue for red carrots. We found significant differences among varieties in almost identical traits as with orange carrots. So the productivity traits, germination, canopy cover, vigor, and yield saw those same significant differences among varieties. In this case, the ranking of traits is not the same for all those varieties. So the heat map I've sorted by yield, but you'll see that not all of those traits follow in exactly the same order. Again, there's no significant difference in flavor, which again is surprising to me, but you can note that the average scores for flavor are lower than for the red carrots, around 3, which in our rubric meant I would eat it again, but I wouldn't seek it out, versus closer to a 4 of would happily eat again for the orange carrots. I'll also say that red carrots are really, they've been bred over hundreds of years to be eaten cooked. So we're not really seeing them in their, I guess their focus use or the use they were bred for when we eat them raw. More about that later. We found a few environmental effects in the red carrot data using east and west regions, fewer than in the orange carrot data. Only saw one very weak environmental effect using hardiness zone groups. Again, no genotype by environment interaction, so no cases of a variety doing significantly better in one region than the other. For the traits where we did see regional variation, the germination and marketability were slightly higher in the West. Bolt resistance was quite a bit better for Eastern growers, which I'll hypothesize is a function of the lower latitudes of most of those growers. So the ranking we see is generally Dragon at the top, Red Sun and Ruby Pack, which actually take different orders in the different regions than Carnelian and our 6220. Dragon isn't a true red carrot. We'll talk about that later. Let's take a tour through the season with some data. In our germination data, we see the moderate region effect with average germination slightly lower in the East. The variety effect is similar but not identical in the East and the West. In the West, this experimental variety from Organic Seed Alliance had significantly less germ than everything else. In the East, it wasn't significantly different than Carnelian or the hybrid Ruby Pack. But as you can see, the general pattern or ranking for germination held in both regions. For canopy cover, which again follows germination, in both East and the West, the Dragon showed significantly more canopy cover than our 6620. So that's the significant difference that's driving a lot of these that's making us note significance when we do statistical analysis. You'll note that in this trial, Dragon, which is this dark gray bar, takes the role that Bolero had in the previous trial we looked at. So it has the highest average for all the traits that we measured. But again, it's an orange carrot with purple or like anthocyanin on the outside. So it's a colored carrot. If what you're looking for is a colored carrot to diversify your market offering, it might fit the bill. If you're really looking for a red carrot, it's not quite that. In the East, we saw that Dragon didn't have significantly different canopy cover than any other of the commercial varieties. So this group here. In the West, Dragon showed significantly more canopy cover than both of the truly red OPs, so Carnelian and 6620. You'll see the commercial varieties grouped together for a lot of these traits, which to me says there's a certain bar that commercial varieties tend to have to clear before they're deemed to be good enough to be sold and relied upon by growers. Looking at the end of the season, yield in both regions, Dragon showed the highest yield and our 6620 showed the lowest. In the West, that 6220 also showed significantly less yield than Red Sun and Ruby Pack, which are the other hybrids. When we look at quantitative data, marketable yield is in the 4-pound range versus about 7 pounds for the orange varieties. It's slightly, but not drastically lower marketable yield than for orange varieties. You note that Carnelian showed very similar actual yield, both marketable and total, to Red Sun and Ruby Pack. So that's consistent with the lack of significant difference in the seedling data. Looking at flavor, again, we saw that all 3 varieties that we tasted out at the UBC farm tasting got really similar scores. People just seemed to be happy to eat carrots that day, and we're not particularly discerning, even though we were, so that's actually valuable information. Like, people want good crunchy, relatively sweet carrots without harsh flavor, but everyday consumers might not be too much more discerning. In our tasting at University of Toronto, where we had carrots grown at 2 sites, we did see some, again, G by E or genotype by environment differences. About 2/3 of the tasters wanted to eat Ruby Pack again, whichever place it was grown. About 2/3 of the tasters would eat Carnelian again when it was grown at UBC, but only about 1/3 when grown at UTSC. So this suggests that this and our orange results suggest that maybe hybrids have more stable flavor over, which amounts to sugar accumulation and accumulation of these various terpenoids that give aromas to carrots over multiple locations. And maybe they're more variable in open pollinated varieties, but we'd need a much more robust study to back that up with facts. So onto the variety dossiers. Dragon, like we said, is really was the most vigorous carrot in this trial. Germinated right away, big healthy tops, yielded really well. At EBC Farm, it was absolutely our leader at 74 days. It tasted juicy and sweet. I was like going to sing the praises of this carrot everywhere I went. It did much worse at the later harvest. It really wants to be harvested early. And then I also got to try it in several places when I got to visit, when I went out to Ontario, and boy, did it taste different. The flesh was much denser. We could almost peel the cortex off the core of the carrot. And there were a lot more stronger flavors. I think that probably has to do with moisture, high heat, maybe soil type, but I was surprised at that variability. So, but between the two trials, I would draw a parallel between Dragon and Touchon Deluxe. Like where it works, it's awesome. And if your conditions aren't right for it, it may not work. So this is the first of the hybrid true red carrots from Bijou seeds. This does contain a few light colored off types, which we see in that photo, which they note on the website when you buy it, so everybody can expect it. It has a lighter color than Ruby Pack. Ruby Pack is meant to be its replacement. It does have beautiful pink color throughout the root that, like Alex noted here. Another grower noted visually it could work, they just don't like the flavor. So, right, it depends on what your customers are going to use these for. And again, no significant differences in any trait that we rated on SeedLinked from Ruby Pack, which is the other hybrid, or Dragon. Then Ruby Pack, which is the new replacement for Red Sun from Bijou, has a darker color. For us, it had a rougher appearance at our early harvest, and a couple other folks noted that. There was a lot of variability in the comments, which is why I chose to put two up that really represented each poll. Like this one was awesome versus yeah, we just didn't get a lot of roots that look very good. When we looked at our harvest taken early and late, the yield caught up to Red Sun at the late harvest, but in the early harvest, it was lower. Carnelian. So this is a new choice, commercially available this year for the first time, bred by Organic Seed Alliance, offered by High Mowing Organic Seeds, and it was the better of the two open pollinated varieties we trialed, which is likely why it got picked up for commercial production. So it's great to have an OP option. And notably, it was not different from Red Sun or Ruby Pack for any trait that we rated on SeedLinked. And you saw that the marketable and total yields were fairly similar. So if you're looking for a red carrot and you would rather use an open pollinated, this is a great one to try. We did see that it did better later in the season. So it might not be something you want to plan on for your 75-day harvest slot, but something to leave for the 90 to 100-day harvest. And then this R6220 experimental. So we saw that it was rated lower than many varieties for many traits. So just generally less vigorous. It's an experimental, so it didn't have a maturity date attached. We saw it did fairly poorly at our first harvest, but at our 95-day harvest, it had the highest yield of anything that we grew. So this one I think is going to take some more breeding effort from the folks at OSA, but it could be a nice later season red nonce. It really does have more of the nonce shape. You can see that blunting. It has more of that than the carnelian does, but a carnelian is a little more tapered. For our hub site data, we grew the same five varieties plus Fantasia, which is the beautiful multicolored population that you all got as a sample. And I'd love to hear about what you thought of it, if any of you are saving roots to make seed on, etc. Our varieties, when we rank them by, how did I rank this? By marketable yield. Were rated as the same overall, in the same order as the overall data at the 74-day harvest. Things really changed at our 95-day harvest there, where we saw 6620 or 6220. I have to find the right name for that variety. We saw that do much better. So the OSA open pollinated varieties really did well later in the season. So that's something to note. They could even fill a slot after the Red Sun or Ruby Pack if you want to stagger plantings. So questions about red carrots. I see there's some things in the chat. Okay, the vampire carrot. Is that a true red carrot, or is it an orange carrot with purple, like dragon? I'm not familiar with that one. Orange with red skin. Oh, interesting. Okay, I think that one was trialed in some earlier CANOVI trials before I got here. And I won't even say, I'm not sure if I looked for orange with red skin. Okay, yes, David. In the red CANOVI trial last year. Maybe previous year. John's gonna plan to grow a Fantasia next year. Yeah, Fantasia really, I loved the flavor. Even later in the season, I think I'm so glad some of you are saving roots. Yeah, I will get that feedback back to OSA. They really do have something special on their hands. And I'm really curious about how the color distribution will evolve and develop in different populations as people either save out their favorite colors or try to keep a balance of colors in there. Alex said we had a few students at KPU who are very vocal fans of R4286. Which one was that? Even though it didn't get the top score overall at our site.
Sorry, I'm getting the name wrong because I can't remember the numbers, but that.
Oh, the 6220.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Whatever. There's a 6 in there. And a 2.
Yeah, there's a 6 and a 2, definitely.
The students who liked it really liked it.
I love it. And they liked eating it raw or as something grown in the field.
They liked the flavor, both fresh and storage flavor.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's the comment that I picked out for that one. Like, it was really not vigorous, but kind of cool flavor. Ooh, cool. Are there more seeds for Fantasia? Qualified, yes, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to keep interrupting.
No.
We just at KP, so for everyone that doesn't know, I work at KP at Kwantlen Polytechnic University now. And we grew a larger amount of Fantasia. I had more seeds. So we did a large block thinking maybe we'll keep saving seed or do selection or something. And we just looked at all the stecklings yesterday. We just kind of did the selection, and really we just did some like roguing. We didn't try to do any selection in any direction. We just rogued out that were split or knobby. And we've got 300 stecklings, and we're thinking to just grow the seed next year just to practice with carrot seed production. So
amazing.
I need to talk to OSA about what their what their desires are around sharing and how they want that to be handled. But we potentially will have some seed.
That's very cool. From my conversations with, so Alex was the postdoc who did the first 3 years of this project after I came on. So It's great to have you here. In my conversations with the breeders at OSA, they would love to keep track of where the seed's going so they can see what directions people take it in, but they're very happy. Like it's meant to be an open source variety for people to take and play with and just really enjoy. I don't know about the quantity of seed they have available. I can check on that. Tiara, if you would take a note on that, I would really appreciate that. And David also says, yeah, we would like to keep track of growers also who are saving seed from Fantasia. Maybe that's a question on a survey coming up. That would have been a great question for the exit survey, and we didn't think of it. And I'm newer to this area, so I don't know Sunshine Seeds, but it sounds like there was another either segregating population or formula mix that was pretty awesome. Okay, great, in Kelowna.
Well, in that case, if people tentatively, we can be a source of seed for Fantasia for people here who want it. We're happy to share the seed that we grow.
Nice.
We'll just talk to OSA about it and let them know who we're sharing it with. You know, provided we get a good seed crop next year. Don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm talking with Michaela next week, so we'll chat about this too. Yeah. That makes me really happy. I was so jazzed when I got to try it last spring, and you know, we didn't have necessarily a plan when we gave it to you all, except to hope that people were excited and wanted to do more with it.
Yeah, we were blown away by the flavor in addition to the color.
Absolutely, me too.
Hey, so can you, I was under the impression, or I was hoping that the Fantasia seed was actually commercially available, that I was going to be able to purchase. Is that not the case?
That is not the case, unfortunately. It's still, it's still an experimental state, but I gotta believe it's moving toward commercialization, and also they're very free with sharing seed. So it's, you know, probably not enough quantity for you to just grow a population to sell right away, but it's there.
So wait, do you know, regarding that following on that last question, do you know if OSA has like a policy or protocol around people selling that variety at farmers markets? Like,
that's a great question.
You know, as they're encouraging people to share it, are they expecting people to just use their roots for seed production, or can farmers be actually taking this to market?
That's a great question, and I will clarify that with Michaela at OSA.
Okay,
I think
great.
I think kind of in keeping with the open source seed initiative agreement, it's like identify the variety as what it is. But they want people to this. That's why they bred it. They want it to be for, you know, diversified farmers to supply local food systems. And so I think they'd be super happy. I'm not sure if they thought that far.
Okay.
I'll find out. Maybe they have. We haven't talked about it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's part of a public breeding project. So I don't think they're looking for any kind of royalties or material transfer agreements or any of that stuff that sometimes comes into play.